Welcome back to The Explainer. So let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like your AI gives you answers that are just a little too safe? Like it's holding back? Well, today we're exploring a seriously fascinating software architecture together. Right now, I'd bet most of us treat an LLM like a single cautious oracle, right? We ask it a question, cross our fingers, and hope for the best. But today, we're breaking that habit completely. Instead of relying on one model to give you this watered-down, middle-of-the-road answer, we're going to build a multi-agent team that actually argues its way to brilliant, heavily stress-tested decisions. If you've been looking for a way to get way sharper insights, you are absolutely going to love this.
Here's our structural blueprint for today. We'll start by looking at the problem with averaged AI, then we'll meet the AI swarm. After that, we'll see how the orchestrator assigns roles, dive into how the experts operate in total isolation, talk about why you absolutely need a devil's advocate, and finally, look at the merge, where we synthesize all that beautiful disagreement.
All right, Section 1, the problem with averaged AI. Let's just crack this open by addressing the elephant in the room, which is the fundamental flaw of asking a single AI model to evaluate a high-stakes decision. Whenever you ask one single model to evaluate a really tough choice, it typically gives you one unified view. And by design, that view is cautious. It's averaged. A standard LLM kind of just wants to agree with you. It tries to smooth over the rough edges, and it desperately searches for a safe balance. But here's the reality. An important, complex decision simply cannot be evaluated by one averaged view. It has to be attacked from different sides. That's exactly where the swarm approach comes in. It's multi-angle, it's sharp, it argues, and it forces a reconciliation of totally different viewpoints.
There's this fantastic quote from our source material that says, "A single agent tends toward groupthink with itself." I mean, think about that for a second. Groupthink with itself. Because it's trying to encompass every single perspective all at once, it just collapses into this mush of conformity. A single averaged view is structurally incapable of giving you the hard, sharp edges you need to actually make a risky business or technical decision.
Section 2, meet the AI swarm. So, how do we fix this? Well, we introduce a swarm of agents. And the critical mindset shift here is that we do not want the AI to agree. We actually want it to conflict. We're making disagreement a feature, not a bug.
To pull this off, we need a clear mental map of the swarm's architecture. It's built on three main steps. First up is the orchestrator, which basically acts like the manager and assigns roles. Second, we have the experts, doing parallel, independent analysis. And third is the merge, which reconciles all those conclusions without averaging them out. Let's break down each of these, starting right at the beginning of the pipeline.
Section 3. The orchestrator assigns roles. You can think of this orchestrator exactly like a CEO. It takes the initial task you're trying to solve and decides exactly which expert roles are required to properly analyze it.
Now, the orchestrator doesn't actually analyze the problem itself. Instead, it dynamically hands out specialized roles so the problem gets attacked from every side. For instance, if you're evaluating a new product launch, the orchestrator might spin up an investor whose only focus is money, an engineer who only cares about technical risk, a product specialist advocating strictly for the user, and a security person hunting for vulnerabilities. You don't hard-code these roles in advance. You let the model pick them dynamically for the specific task, so the swarm stays totally adaptable. But here is the absolute kicker. You have to explicitly prompt the orchestrator with the requirement that the roles must conflict. We actually keep the AI's temperature setting high here on purpose, because we want diverse, non-obvious roles. Without this counterintuitive instruction, the model might just give you a marketer, a social media manager, and a content creator, and, well, their interests perfectly align. If they don't clash, the entire point of the swarm is completely lost.
Moving on to Section 4, experts, independence, and conflict. Once the orchestrator has handed out these conflicting roles, our newly assigned experts, our squabbling board of directors basically, start their analysis. The crucial point here is how you manage these experts. They absolutely must run in strict parallel, and they cannot, under any circumstances, see each other's conclusions. If one expert sees another's opinion, conformity sets in immediately. Physically separating them guarantees true independence. Plus, in their prompts, they are explicitly forbidden from being balanced. If an expert tries to see all sides, you'll just end up with 5 identical cautious opinions. Instead, you instruct them to push their specific angle to the absolute limit. I literally love this quote from the source. A conflict of interests is what cracks the decision open.
Having experts whose interests directly conflict, like, say, prioritizing explosive growth versus long-term sustainability, is infinitely more valuable than having experts who comfortably agree. It is the friction between these perspectives that reveals the hidden risks in your decision.
Now, if you want to make this even more powerful, you can extend the architecture with a debate round. After their first independent pass, you can show each expert a summary of the other's opinions and let them object. They react to everyone else all at once, still in parallel. This is where the weak arguments just completely collapse under fire, and the strong arguments firm up. By the end of this round, you've got incredibly sharpened, hardened conflicts ready for the final merge.
Okay, Section 5, the devil's advocate. Before we merge, we have to address a massive structural risk in this whole setup. What happens if all of our fiercely independent experts actually end up agreeing with each other? This brings us to a concept called fake agreement. Fake agreement is when everyone nods along, not because the idea is bulletproof, but out of pure inertia. It's like when a group of friends all agree to eat at a terrible restaurant just because nobody wanted to be the first to object, right? This quiet danger is actually way worse than open conflict, because unanimous agreement creates a false sense of total confidence. So, I have to pose this critical question to you. When we're building a system designed to uncover the truth, how do we prevent consensus from making us completely blind? How do we know a unanimous yes is actually a good thing?
The solution? We add one final, highly specialized agent to the pipeline just before we merge, the devil's advocate. This agent has literally one job. It runs after the experts, looks at their unanimous or near-unanimous opinions, and relentlessly hunts for a scenario where they are all catastrophically wrong. If the swarm voted for the launch, the advocate is obligated to find the crack in their logic. It forces the consensus to actually survive an attack rather than just happen by accident. Finally, Section 6, the merge. Synthesizing disagreement. We have our independent expert analyses, maybe a fiery debate round, and a ruthless attack from the devil's advocate. Now it's time to bring all these hardened, heavily stress-tested opinions together.
To do this right, we need a quick technical tweak. Remember how we kept the temperature high for the orchestrator and the experts so they'd be wild and diverse? Well, we must significantly lower the LLM temperature for the merge. We need the synthesizing agent to be highly logical, totally sober, and completely consistent.
The instructions given to the merge agent are absolutely vital. The worst thing it can do, like the absolute worst, is collapse all our shark opinions into a toothless, average summary that just says, well, on the one hand this, on the other hand that. No. It is instructed to never average the opinions. It has to highlight areas of stronger agreement, clearly identify where the experts fiercely contradict, and literally price the cost of those conflicts. It needs to tell you straight up, if you side with the engineer to delay the launch, it will cost you this much market share. Here's the conflict, and here's what it will cost you.
Because at the end of the day, a good synthesis leaves the conflict completely visible. Remember, the most valuable information you can have when making a difficult decision isn't the stuff everyone is nodding along with. It's the friction. The visible conflict shows you exactly where the genuine risks lie, giving you a structured breakdown instead of just vague advice.
Let's summarize this entire pipeline with the 3 absolute non-negotiable rules for building a successful AI swarm. 1. The roles assigned by the orchestrator must conflict, not complement. 2. The experts must operate in parallel and never see each other's initial work. And 3. The final merge must preserve the disagreement and never average the opinions into a common denominator. Follow these 3 rules and you instantly upgrade from a simple chat interface to a massive analytical engine.
I want to leave you with this thought to end our explainer today. Think about a really tough decision you're turning over in your head right now. What vital angles are you currently missing because you're relying on your own average perspective or the average perspective of a single AI prompt? Imagine what you might discover and the hidden risks you'd uncover if you ran that problem through an AI swarm instead. Thanks so much for exploring this architecture with me. Go build your swarm, let them argue, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.